He gives you the power to overcome death, to actually take any death in this world and bring life from it. That's the power of our salvation, to turn everything around. The disciple Miriam, Mary Magdalene, she comes to the tomb, and it says this, but Mary was standing outside the tomb weeping, and as she wept, she stooped to look in the tomb. And she saw two angels in white sitting, one at the head, one at the feet, where the body of Yeshua, Jesus, had been lying. And they said to her, woman, why are you weeping? She said to them, because they've taken away my Lord. I don't know where they put him. When she had said this, she turns around and she sees Jesus, Yeshua, standing there. And she didn't know it was him. And he says to her, woman, why are you weeping? Whom are you seeking? Then listen, she supposed that he was the gardener. The gardener. He is the gardener. He's the gardener of creation. And he appears, when he comes back, he appears as the gardener. Why? Because he was separated from the garden. Now the gardener appears back at the garden tomb. God was separated from the world. Now he comes back. You know, the figure, he comes and he appears as the gardener. She believes he's the gardener. Why? Because it's a sign of our calling, because we were called to be gardeners. We were called to produce life, and we lost it. Now in redemption, the day of redemption, the day of resurrection, he appears as the gardener because our calling is to be restored. You know, man last appeared as a gardener just before sin and death, and then he was gone. Messiah, the first thing after he ended sin and death, he appears again, the gardener appears. But it's not just the man and the garden, it's man and woman and a garden. And so what you have here on the moment of resurrection, the moment when death is undone, when Eden, the fall is undone, and they're at a garden, a dead garden that's now alive, that brings life, you don't just have a man, you have a woman. I believe Mary Magdalene is standing as a placeholder for us. Because it's you know, in the beginning you had a man and a woman and a garden and a tree. And at the end here, the tomb, you got a cross, the tree, you got a man, you got a woman, you got a gardener. Adam was the gardener. Eve, her real name wasn't Eve. You know what her name was? Her name was Hava. Try it. Hava, a real Hebrew name. Hava, it means the giver of life. One who is to give life. So Adam is a gardener. She is to give life. And now, in the day of the redemption, that morning, it's all broken. The morning, it's undone. You got the garden, you got the tree, you got the gardener, you got the man, you got a woman. It's kind of like she's seeking. She runs to the tomb, seeking for him. It's almost like Eve searching for Adam, because man has died. And he's the gardener, but he's died. But she looks, and instead of seeing a dead gardener, there's an alive gardener. And he says to her, why are you weeping? In other words, your time of weeping is over. The winter is over. It gets even more awesome. You see, when you think about it, I mean, everything, God is so perfect. He's undoing he's reversing everything. It was in the garden that the woman's sorrow begins. And she was in a place of life, but she gets into a place of death. But now, in the garden tomb, it's a woman, her sorrow, she's weeping, and she's in a place of death in the tomb, and then God is going to take her to a place of life, saying, your weeping is over. It's like he's telling all of us the weeping is over. The sorrow is over. It's ending the curse. So, you woman, why weepest thou? You know, we said when a gardener leaves the garden, it's going to become messed up. But if the garden comes back in the garden, it can become alive again. So the symbol of a fallen, dying world is this tomb. But God comes back into this garden tomb. If he comes back, he's going to make it come alive again. It's like saying what happened to the garden became a tomb, garden tomb. But now if God comes back into the garden, even if it's a tomb, he's going to make it come alive. It won't be a garden of death anymore. It's going to be a garden of resurrection. The dead garden comes alive. The new garden. And that garden tomb is a sign of your life, your new life. You see, it's not about natural life. You know, the way the natural goes, you head to a tomb and you die, that's the end of it. But with God, it doesn't end in a tomb, it begins in a tomb. It's the second life. You know, it's the new life. It's a life after the old one's gone. I have a new life. It's redemption life. It's the second chance life. It's the born again life. I'm born again. I can only be born again because the old life is in the tomb. That life that comes from death, it's not just life. It's miracle life that you have. Your old life ended so your new life can begin. That's the garden tomb. You ever think how strange it is? How contradictory it is? Garden, tomb. Tomb is a place of death. Garden's a place of life. Tomb is a place where everything ends. Garden's a place where everything begins. What's the garden tomb? It's a place where the old ends and the new begins. Where death ends and life begins. Think about it. That's the place of the resurrection, all linked to Eden. But think about the timing of the resurrection. What day does it happen on? Day 1. Sunday is day 1. So it happens on the beginning day called the beginning day, right after the end day. You have the seventh day, it's the end. Now comes the beginning. It's no accident. God is perfect. So after the end comes the beginning. That's the resurrection. When in the day that happened, he died, what was happening? The sun was going down, the day was ending. When did we see the resurrection? As the sun was rising. New beginning. What month did it take place in? The month in Hebrew that's called Nisan. Say it, Nisan. Nisan's the month that ends the old year and begins the new year. It means the beginning. So here he brings the new beginning and the month called the beginning. What season? How about that? It was a season of springtime. What does that mean? It's a season that ends winter and begins new life. It's the time to become alive again. The garden tomb, amazing. So when does a gardener plant a garden? In the springtime. When does God bring new life? Springtime. When you came to the Lord, doesn't matter what season it was springtime in your life. That's the power of your salvation. The power to go to the empty tomb, the garden tomb. You got the power to end anything that should not be in your life. Anything will end in the power of God in that tomb. The old ends in that tomb. But you also have the power to end the old and begin a new thing. Behold, God says, I will do a new thing in your life. Don't ponder the old things, I will do a new thing. It gives you the power also to take things in your life that are dead and broken and hopeless and have them come alive in God. It was impossible, because that's impossible tomb. The tomb gives you the power to take any situation, any impossible thing, and have it become a miracle in God, a new life miracle. The garden tomb, it doesn't just bring, it's not just like, you can bring life from a garden, that's one thing, but to bring life from a tomb, that's another thing. He gives you the power to overcome death, to actually take any death in this world and bring life from it. That's the power of our salvation, to turn everything around. Mary of Magdalene, she knows what that's about, because remember, she was the one who lived in darkness. She was the one who was possessed. And yet God, Messiah, came to her, delivered her, gave her light. That's why she's at the tomb, because she's saying, nothing, not even death is going to separate me from him. And she's saying, I'd rather be with him and the tomb than anywhere else in the world. I'd rather be him. Nothing's going to separate me from him. And so she's the first one to see it. There's a blessing in God that only comes after the end. See, our salvation is not just the beginning, it's the beginning that comes after the end. When everything is broken, when the old is broken, that's when the new comes.